Hello, everyone. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Biden's poll numbers, and they suck. Which they have for a while. So, reason to continuously be excited. I think we're going to have a really good midterms. As always, Republicans could screw things up, but it's usually when there's a midterm after some kind of presidential election, the midterm is some kind of repudiation for, the person in power. People don't tend to like when there's too much power and Democrats have full control. If they had some kind of people have argued that them actually getting the Senate control was bad for them because people expect more things to be done, but all the things that they want to do are really bad. And so people aren't also processing that at the same time. So they're actually in a really rough spot. And Joe Biden should really be having a great presidency. I mean, the economy should have been able to bounce right back. But he just, when he got in, they had a lot of agendas. They made the border crisis a crisis, the border situation, astronomical rises in border crossings. People were mad about kids in cages with Trump, even though, as Trump would say, who built those cages, which was Obama and Joe. And they had to make multiple facilities or smuggling kids across the nation in the dead of night. So it's pretty crazy what's going on with the Biden administration. He stopped people being allowed to drill, and now he's like, oh, gas prices are high. Can you believe gas is this high? Yes, Joe, we can believe they're this high. They're quite high. The last time you were in the White House. So there's just a lot of issues with Biden administration and a lot that they have to answer for, and I'm sure that they will answer during the midterms. We just need Republicans to continue to be the party of no. That was their nickname during the Obama era, and they need to continue being the party of no. I think they've been a little lax on some things. There's definitely some Biden appointees that got through that they shouldn't have got through, and so on. There was, of course, people who voted for the infrastructure bill who wish hadn't voted for the infrastructure bill. Hopefully none of them will buckle with Build Back Better, which is totally awful. But we'll see what happens. I think we're going to have a really good midterm, and I'm hoping that we can have a lot of Republican governorships across the country and so on, especially in my state. I hope we can turn that around. But it seems like our governor is making some decisions because she spoke out about the mandates. If they were really against the mandates, they could have joined other states in suing the Biden administration. But I didn't see Dana Nessel jump on with everybody else. So there's that. But she said the state of Michigan is also an employer, and if they force some back mandates and stuff, the people would also lose their jobs there. So they have common sense. Everybody's got common sense. They just choose when to apply it. It's very convenient for these people, very convenient. So we'll talk about that. I don't think I mentioned on the show that Chris Cuomo was officially fired from CNN. I know we talked about when he went on probation sort of leave, but he was officially fired. So now the rumors are that he's lawyering up and he's going to sue CNN. So they are eating each other, which is always delicious when we see that happening. And BLM is also standing in support of Jussie Smollett. Everyone knows that I don't like BLM. It's no secret. And very hostile towards the organization. I was supportive of them marching against the mandates. I'm like, oh, they're actually doing something that makes sense. But and I won't say it's everyone, but it's this leader out of the California chapter of BLM released a statement. It's like, dude, he totally faked a hate hoax. They make life harder for everyone else when there's a real sort of racial discrimination. So why? But their statement's pretty funny, so I'm going to read it to you. before we get all that, I do want to encourage you guys to go to blackteennews.com, check out different content that I have on the website. I did just drop an article. It's on the longer side of things. It's about, I don't know, maybe about 1,800 words, but which is long for like a piece. But I was in the mood and I was writing. But it's about the moral harm of abortion. It's a conversation that I've had to have a lot with people, especially on social media, because I argue a lot in favor of being pro-life on like TikTok and other apps. And people always ask, because that app is basically built for debate. I don't even know why they have all those rules for their community guidelines and stuff. I'm like, you clearly want people to engage, and clearly they're going to butt up against each other. But people ask, why do you care? People say it's my body, my choice. It doesn't affect you. It's just between a woman and her doctor. And they make all these different arguments for abortion, like it's none of your business. Whoopi Goldberg on The View went on a rant about men and how they don't know what a fetus feels like, or it's what it's like to be a fetus, or they don't care about fetus. I don't understand fetus, which I didn't understand that part of the rant, because I'm like, well, everyone used to be a fetus, like that's how we got here to that stage of development. So we were all a fetus at one point. Do we have that sort of cognitive memory or something back then? No. And like in the womb, I guess not. So that the same applies to her. So I don't even understand the mentioning of it. And clearly she doesn't care about the fetus either. She says like men are insincere because they don't have the eggs to produce the fetus. But I mean, you can't make a fetus without the man, and it is as much their progeny as it is yours. So they do have some invested interest in the child. So there's that. But if you're advocating for the abortion, I'm not going to say you don't care, because people say it's very heartbreaking, it's a very hard decision, because obviously you realize there's some inherent value, but you've decided to still take his life regardless for whatever reason it is. But if they say don't kill the child, and you say kill the child, then I think they care about the fetus more than you care about the fetus. And then she said, I don't care if you're against abortion, that's fine, but you can't tell me what to do with my body. Okay, so she doesn't care if you're against abortion, but she basically keep it to yourself, and and don't have any activism. Don't try to pass any laws. Just keep what. It was a rant, such a meaningless rant that was so insincere, just fueled with emotion and rage. Which that's just the ladies of The View. That's just the ladies of The View. My gosh, they're so, I don't know, outrageous. People got upset because I did a video, and I was telling them off in the video, but they're all like, how dare you call them ladies? So I thought that was pretty funny. But anyway, people try to say what business is of yours. A friend of mine did a video, someone asked them like, what stake do you have in abortion, and don't say a moral one. And he rejected, that moral stake, and their premise anyway. But he said, but to be fair, what values, like if a stranger aborts their child, what relation does it have to me? He's like, nothing. But that's the same if a stranger is killed somewhere else, or there's some kind of other tragedy that doesn't affect me. That doesn't mean that it's not immoral. So I decided to pin down reasons why it is a great moral harm to society. And so my thinking is that a society that accepts this, a society that sustains this, if they're willing to do this to an innocent, helpless, unborn baby, then what is society? The society that we produced that accepts this and is at this point is promoting it to the point where they totally want to remove the stigma. You got, SNL and their dumb clown skit. You had the salute to abortion that Michelle Wolf did on Netflix. You got all these activists that say it's okay to have an abortion just because you had hot sex and you don't want a baby. There's all these people who are really trying to totally dissolve any sort of stigma associated with abortion because they want you to have more of them. if we live in a society that's willing to do that, what is society willing to do to you? What is society willing to do to you? And so I listed some examples, and really abortion is rooted in eugenics. It's rooted in population control. It's rooted in the abuse of women. It's rooted in people taking advantage of women to push their agendas with eugenics and so on. Um, we know Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was into eugenics. She's a very famous example. But the person who took over Planned Parenthood, Alan Gushmacher, I think that's how you say his name. He was the vice president of American Eugenics Society or something like that. And he was far more for abortion than Margaret Sanger. She was for population control and birth control and stuff, but she wasn't as passionate. I know she always gets the real bad rep. She deserves it. But there's other people who are actually more aggressive with abortion than she was, who took over. And so you had men who were really into eugenics and population control, who wanted to remove all as many of the um, provisions we had against abortion, restrictions, I guess is a better word. They wanted to remove as many restrictions as possible. And so I also talk in the piece about the founders of NARAL, which is a big abortion activist group. But one of the co-founders actually ended up converting later in life to Catholicism and repented of his sins. He said he was personally responsible for 75,000 abortions. He did the movie The Silent Scream. But he's also written books and stuff. But he's admitted that when it came to public support of abortion, they lied about it to manipulate the public into believing that more people were for abortion than what they really were. They said it was like 85%. They knew the answer was really like 5%. So people will trick you into believing that something is popular, so you go along with it because you don't want to be the outsider. People do it all the time. Um, and so you got to be careful how people use polls to trick you. Even like when you're running for, you're about to vote for somebody, people will use polls to try to get you to jump on the train of the candidate, whatever they want, and on the issue that they want you to jump on. So it's not anything new, but they blatantly lied about it in the past, and they knew that the media wouldn't really correct them on it. And they also would lie about how many women were being killed and harmed with illegal abortions. Um, they'd say from anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000. You guys have probably heard people repeat that number, which they knew just absolutely wasn't true. And his co-founder wrote a book on abortion, and that was cited in Roe v. Wade several times. So it's an industry of deceit and abuse and classism, racism, sexism, that is continued on and strives today. And you can still see the fruit of eugenics bearing out today when you see Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and the squad and whoever else, Bernie Sanders, talk about abortion and the need for it within minority communities. And in the article, I do have a picture of an ad that I saw Planned Parenthood put out grossly ironically on Mother's Day in 2019 and 2018 it was. So I'll just my screen's not is not I'm just gonna like end up dead middle in my face, but I just want to show you an example of like some of the ads that they had. And they were all women of color. They had Black women, Hispanic women, and these are the sort of ads that they put out because those are the kind of people that they cater towards. So ultimately it is a woman's choice, which actually, but women are coerced into it. I've seen women defend their choice to get an abortion because they were within a abusive marriage, and then they had felt like that was the best way to save the rest of their children, and they couldn't protect another one. And I'm like, that is terrible, and I understand why you would make that decision, but don't you see that abortion is also aiding these abusive men, and it also aids men who commit sexual assault against women, who want to keep that secret, like you go destroy the evidence. So it's a really traumatic sort of system that we've set up in the world today. So, like I said, it's a long piece, but I think it's well worth the read. Otherwise, I wouldn't have written it. But please check that out. Please share it. A lot of people really try to push people out of the debate, and I don't think that we should allow that, especially men. Especially men. I'm so sick and tired of the when I argue with pro-choice men, I'm so tempted to just say no uterus, no opinion, because they would say the same back to other people. But it's such an egregious concept that I won't even really do it even to mock them so much. And if I do, it's like easily an obvious mocking them. But men definitely have a voice. I've seen videos of men just sobbing, screaming, crying outside of abortion clinics saying, please don't kill my baby. Please don't kill our baby. So I I don't want men to just pass the buck. I know a lot of them. There's a lot of men out there who are pro-choice, but they would not want their woman to kill their offspring. They feel like you can kill someone else's kid, you ain't gonna kill my kid. But I think there's greater harm to society. I mean, allowing eugenics wasn't just about abortion. I mean, that they did sterilization, our economic policies. There's a real big root with eugenics in the U.S. And I talked a little bit about how it influenced the minimum wage on the show before, and maybe I'll go into deeper depths with that another day. But I do encourage you guys to go to the website and check out that article. And if you enjoy things like that, things that I write in this broadcast and my posts and my TikToks and so on, I ask that you go to blackteennews.com and that you consider leaving a donation on the donate page, blackteennews.com/donate. I've grown a lot over the year, and I thank you guys for supporting Black Teen News, but we want to go further, faster. I just reached another milestone on TikTok and in my platform. So I'm growing, and I appreciate that. And I can't do that without you guys. So I appreciate your support of Black Teen News. I appreciate you guys liking the page, sharing the content, leaving comments. I am like reading comments when I get a second. I'm clicking through and I see that you guys are there. I appreciate you guys. It also helps like the algorithm and so on. So it's really appreciated. And please make sure that you follow me across all my different social media platforms. All my handles are at Black Teen News on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and the only one that is different is on Twitter, and that one is at True Black Tea. And I also want to encourage you guys to check out some of the merchandise on the website. I will show. This is relevant. The My Money, My Business shirt. Like I said, people try to really force people out of the debate, but I made this because they try to use their taxpayers. They do use their taxpayer dollars, not to directly fund it, but they do still fund organizations like Planned Parenthood. And then in turn, Planned Parenthood will sow money into candidates who they know will support them. So it is a vicious cycle. So, check out stuff that I have on the store. So, I do also need to thank the Brighter Michigan PAC. I am in the studio again today. If I said something that triggered you, they don't care. I don't care. It doesn't work like that. I'm just in the studio. Appreciate the space. They do great work. Check out Brighter Michigan PAC. They help elect good candidates, not just for big positions, but local positions. All politics are local. So I do want to show you guys this comic my friend G Prime 85 George Alexopoulos created. We talked about this the other day. So there's a swimmer here getting ready, a female swimmer, and she looks over as she's about to start, and there's a hulkling man there about to just really, really beat her. And so that story is from, this swimmer here who competed as a man for 3 years, I believed, and then decided that he was a woman, and now he's beating records. How shocking. How shocking that you decide to be a woman and all of a sudden, and you're just beating all the other women. It's almost as if you have a biological advantage. And of course, he does. People have gotten really triggered with me because I won't use people's pronouns, and men and women are not interchangeable. gender and sex are intertwined. If it was just about your identity, then this person would compete as a man and identify as a woman. But that's not what they do. That's not what they do. And I'm sorry you're not about to just wipe women off the face of the world. I can't understand these parents who don't raise more of a stink about it. I know there's people who are raising a stink about it, but there's a poll that I think some time ago that 62% of Americans are too afraid to voice their opinions, and maybe it was higher than that. So that's one reason why I do what I do, because I know other people, there's so many normal people on this planet who think normal things, who think just with common sense, who haven't partaken of the Kool-Aid, but they are too afraid to speak out on just normal things because they don't want to be canceled. They don't want to rock the boat. So I'm not one of those people, and I don't mind speaking out. And I hope that I inspire other people to speak out, because people have come up to me and said, "Hey, I love what you say. I can't say the things you say because I'd be labeled a racist or something." And I just look at them and say, "Well, I'm called a coon. I'm called an Uncle Tom." And so then they awkwardly like blink a little bit, and it's like, we don't have to be the silent majority. We can just be the majority. And if we remain silent, people are going to continuously be swayed by what they think is the norm. That's how people are. People are cowards. So the more we decide to be brave together, the more we can impact, the more we can change. The Democrats have a big problem, not because so many of them are actually crazy. It's because so many of their crazy ones are so enthusiastic. There's so many progressives that are willing to just push everything forward and tear everything down, burn it to the ground if they have to, as long as they get their agendas pushed and passed. And there's moderates that are like, I don't want to go with that. There's people who say, I'll never forget when in the 20 I don't know if this was 2016, but it was in the Democrat primary. Of course, Hillary Clinton ended up winning that primary, but Jim Webb was on the debate stage with her and Bernie Sanders, and I can't think of other people who were on the debate stage, but they asked a question like, "Who's your greatest enemy?" And Hillary Clinton was like, she named a couple people, and she ended with probably the Republicans, which was pretty toxic. But most of her list was kind of more impressive than what everybody else, but the Republican thing was pretty toxic. And someone said the NRA. So that was, and they got applause and stuff. So Jim Webb, oh poor sweet Jim Webb, he he had, you could tell he had this answer, maybe he had this answer prepared, and he thought he was gonna just blow it out the water. And he's like, "I would say the guy threw a grenade at, but he didn't live to tell the story." And it was just like dead. It had like no reaction from the crowd. And I was watching this debate, not for funsies at home. I was watching it at work at I was working in the Michigan Republican Party at the time. And we were like watching the debate so we could live tweet about it and make graphics like, "The Democrats said this, they suck." Oh. So when Jim Webb said that, I'm in a room of Republicans and we're like, "Oh," like, "that was so good. That was so hardcore." You know, like, this man's a war hero, and it's just like a dud. And so after that debate, because he was more considered moderate, immediately after that debate, he dropped out of the race and was like, "There's no place for me right now." They were going in a different direction, and the more crazy stuff they said, the more support they would gin up. Because the craziest people were the ones who were really, really motivated. Doesn't mean that they had the largest population and the majority agreed with what they wanted, but they can feel the fire under the feet of these progressives. So now a lot of that stuff is turning people off, because there's plenty of independents and moderates who don't like some of the stuff that's going on with the schools, with critical race theory, some of the things that they're teaching, the things that are in the libraries that are more sexually explicit and so on. And there's people who won't say anything because they're too scared, like I said, to be canceled. They want to be polite, but they're like, no, I don't like seeing drags on Blue's Clues. I went through that video that I did yesterday. I did it some time ago, but I talked about it yesterday. But so many people after I had posted that just thanked me so much for just letting them know and having the courage to even speak out again about it. There's so many people out there who take heart. There's more normal people out there than you know. But if you do not speak up, people will keep silent and they will allow other people to keep influencing them. And those people will, the progressives, the really, really active people will start influencing their kids, and then they will be resentful toward their parents. And they will just continuously to push an agenda, not even really knowing why, and having no purpose other than to just spit narratives with no true foundation of who they are. No true foundation at all. So keep speaking up. We need you to speak up. We need you to speak up because this is madness. This is madness. This is madness. And it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sort of sense. Speaking of people who don't make any sense, Rashida Tlaib was talking about school debt the other day. So I wanted to play her video because so many people want to cancel debt. And that is really just to the benefit of like upper class people who just hear what she says.
I worked full time Monday through Friday and took weekend classes to get my law degree, and still close to $200,000 in debt. And I still owe about $70,000. And most of it was interest. Most of it was our own government making money and profit off of me. And guess what? I didn't go to the for-profit entities. I went to legal aid. I worked at the nonprofit organization fighting for, the right to breathe clean air, to fight for the worker that was getting their wage, taken and stolen from their employer. I went and worked on immigrant rights and so much more. And all of that to say, we have to stop treating as if folks that are paying for education, as if they bought some bougie car or some big, something beyond that. No, they were seeking an education.
Okay, so she's decided to go seek her law degree and pay into this, and she's still paying her debt and so on. But if you decide not to go to school, or you decide to go and develop some kind of skill and work in trades, why should you have to pay for Rashida Tlaib's college? Why should you have to pay for her debt? People like Rashida, why? Why should you? If you have a nice job, you will pay it off eventually. A lot of people do pay off their debts. But people do need to be careful about when they decide to take on debt. But you do make that agreement, right? But the question is, because you are asking the government to pay for it, to wipe out that debt. Government doesn't make money; they confiscate it from you. So it just floors me when you may think, and you're like, well, people could pay for it. They could pay for it if they have the money. We just want the rich to do it. Well, then go talk to somebody. Go talk to Bernie Sanders, a millionaire, whatever. Go get him to help you pay for your loans. Go talk to some rich athlete or have them set up charities and start wiping out debt or whatever. Or sending kids to school. Scholarships, that's a thing. But if you decide to take on the debt, why do you want someone who maybe decided to never go to college and didn't want to go to college, but they worked their way up, they got a good job, maybe they started their own business and they got their family out of poverty, and you could say, well, it's important that they pay it back and pay it forward. Okay, but why do they have to pay it forward with you, Miss Person who has a law degree? I think you'll be okay. As a matter of fact, you're a congressperson. So I think you're okay. I think you moved up in the world. AOC, I think you moved up in the world. I think you did okay. So if someone wants to pay it forward and pay it back, they can give back in their communities. They can start a charity. They can give it to their church. They can decide how they want to do that. But having the government confiscate their money so they can pay off the student debts of many people who decided to take it on, who can maybe pay it off with time. And you, if you didn't intend to pay it back, then you shouldn't have taken it. And she said, well, they just think that people are blowing it off on like cars or luxury things. It's education and people are doing good things with it. Okay. Okay. But people also need to be careful about what kind of majors that they pick, that they, when they take on debt, that they will be able to make enough to pay off that debt as well. Like there's always a joke about lesbian dance theory. I'm sure, which is a class or something, but I like if you take useless degrees or things that don't pay well, people, you, statistics are available at what kind of salary that you can make. People, even before people apply for what kind of positions and jobs, they want to know how much it pays, right? They're like, before looking at different positions, they'll go to Indeed or Glassdoor or something and see what kind of positions are paid. So people need to make better decisions about how they plan for the future. But just to have people who didn't go to college or people who did pay off their debt to try to get them to pay off your debt, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes, I'm sorry, it makes sense that you don't want to pay it. That makes sense. It's just not fair. It's just not fair. So there's that. If she wants, they want these millionaires and billionaires to pay off these student debts and stuff. Okay, but why don't you ask, I don't know, George Soros instead of like paying for all the evil and paying it to campaigns for prosecutors and attorney generals and whatnot. Uh, just, I don't know, pay for people's education. You know, instead of Bloomberg wasting millions of dollars, millions upon millions in presidential elections that he was never going to win, just blowing so much money, overpaying. I was joking with my sister. I'm like, maybe I should go work for Bloomberg for a little bit. I promise I won't give him my good stuff, but I'll give him stuff that's better than the stuff he was paying for. I'm like, but maybe we should do it, like, because there's a lot of money. He's paying a lot of money for crap. Which I wouldn't have done, but he was paying like extraordinarily a lot of money for content and stuff that wasn't good. Like his social media team was, they're trying to make jokes and stuff, and it just wasn't, happening. It wasn't landing. So all these people, even with all these race and stuff that people pour into, if you want to give that back to the community, you can give that back. But don't expect people who have nothing to do with your college to just bail you out. So I just thought, like, she thought she made a good point, but in my opinion, she just really revealed what the issue is, what the problem is with that sort of thinking. So I know you all are itching to talk about Biden's poll numbers, which they're bad. They're really bad right now. So the Wall Street Journal, I mean, there's stuff coming out all the time about his polling. But the Wall Street Journal did a report on it. And so he's really underwater. 46% strongly disapproving of Biden overall. That is funny. And one of the my big articles I wrote after the election that people really thought was really hopped on and enjoyed, and I'm sure this had to do with Shatafornia, was talking about people's remorse. And so I had a couple tweets and stuff from people who supported Biden, and they're like, well, what's going on? Like Naomi Wolf, for one, she's a famous feminist. And when he started continually pushing COVID measures, she's like, I didn't know that he was going to do this. That we should have known this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The guy said we have a dark winter coming. Like there was no indication that Biden. I know he said he's not going to shut down the country. He's going to shut down the virus. But there was other talk that he had, including like in that second debate, that really let you know where they would go as far as lockdowns and whatnot. So people being surprised all of a sudden, you're just an uninformed voter and you didn't do your due diligence. You didn't do your due diligence. Now the media like lied to you. And the media is responsible for their lives, but you are still responsible for not. There were sources out there. There were resources. You could just listen to the words the man said and form a correct opinion about how things were going to turn out. So I can't totally feel sorry for people who were so surprised now, so shocked all of a sudden about Joe Biden. And then there were unions who were upset about him closing down pipelines. They're like, but what about all these people in these jobs, these good paying jobs? We're very disappointed. Why are you disappointed? Why are you disappointed? Now, I know Biden was going to places and making all kinds of secret deals to get people support and whatnot, as candidates often do. So maybe he said one thing and did another behind their back and in front of their faces. I don't know. But we do know what the sort of things that he continuously said on the campaign trail. And and I know sometimes people are like, well, maybe they're just pandering to that particular really crazy base, and he's going to get in and be totally normal and moderate. Biden goes with the way the wind blows, and that is not anything new. When he blew his first presidential run by all the lies that he did, lying about, he's such a prolific liar, lying about his education and just blatant like crazy lies, like I'm the top of the class, blah blah blah, and just totally wrong. He's like at the bottom tier, not extraordinary in the least, but with this schooling, just blatantly lied about it. Lied about marching and doing the sit-ins and marching with the civil rights and all that other kind of stuff. And it came out that that wasn't true. So he fessed up to that and ended up dropping out the race. But he started to kind of gain back some momentum when he decided to invent borking. He's part of the borking. And so that's when the Senate hearings started taking a dramatic turn, where before maybe you would have a good candidate, and no matter where they kind of stood on the issues, if they were qualified, you know, vote them through if they really plan to uphold the law, whatever. When you had Bork, who tried to get in as a on the Supreme Court, they just made it like about defaming and taking out somebody rather than are they qualified, can they do the job, vote them up and vote them down. And then, of course, after borking, which was so prolific that they invented the term, it went on to Justice Clarence Thomas and with Anita Hill. And the story was crazy anyway, but when people were talking about it, revisiting it again, like with the Kavanaugh hearing, my parents were like, nobody believed Anita Hill. And back then, my parents weren't even Republican. They're like, the story didn't make any sense. So people trying to gin it up now as if he's some kind of I guess because it's convenient, because he's pro-life and they hate him, so they want to make him into some kind of serial assaulter. When the truth is that when the case and people were talking about it, people didn't think it made sense back then. But I'll never. Well, I didn't see this back then, but like watching the videos and the look of disgust on his face as he's looking at Biden and all these people as they try to derail him. And he's like, this is disgusting with this dirt, putting this dirt here. And he called it a high-tech lynching. And it was so disgusting. Now, there's other times when people have tried to uphold norms or whatever, but Biden goes where the wind will blow. He will go where the wind will blow. And so people should have known when he started hiring all of these progressive people like Simone Sanders. She used to work for Bernie Sanders. I knew things were going to be bad, which, by the way, we didn't talk about this. Simone Sanders left the White House. She's working in the White House and she left. And the rumor has it, is that she was the leak to CNN, because there was a report on CNN some time ago about Kamala Harris and people being upset because she wasn't being utilized more. And people have been talking about some dysfunction between her team and Biden's team. And there's people who left her team and his team and stuff. And there was one staffer who just tweeted out a picture of them at their desk. You're like, I love my job. And it seemed pretty sus. I'm not saying that someone made him tweet that out, but the fact they kind of just did it on their own, but to just kiss up, but it didn't seem normal. It didn't seem normal at all, especially in the time of all the PR kind of nightmares they had going on. But the rumors were that she was the one talking junk, and that's why she's gone. Some people assume that she's probably going to go work for Stacey Abrams, who is running again for governor in Georgia, and she's raised a lot of money. She has a lot of momentum. A lot of people who want to support her. She's pretended that she won that race, and you talk about delusion. Um, but I don't know how that will work. People think that the current governor needs to not run again and have someone else who can beat her. I don't know if I buy into that or not. At the end of the day, Republicans can get a rip, and remember that at the end of the day, Democrats are going to raise taxes and do a bunch of other dumb policies. And if you are a red state and you don't want your taxes to go up and so on, just let those be the talking points. They can talk about racial justice, blah, 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 blah. But do you want to pay more in taxes? Let that be the question. Let that be the question you propose to people. And then you have to do your due diligence on the ground, because they're still going to push things like critical race theory. All other races are pretty much not on board with that, besides the black community. But if you explain it well, I promise you can break through. So regardless of whoever the Republican candidate is, I do believe that they can beat Stacey Abrams if Republicans are determined to beat Stacey Abrams. Period. And if Republicans are more dedicated to grudges or not doing the work, then they could have a Democrat governor who will raise their taxes. So if you live in Georgia, that's my little spiel for you. Be determined to win. Be absolutely determined to win, because you can still win and has not lost hope, even though she's raised a lot of money. Beto raised a butt ton of money. He's running again too, I believe. Which all his dumb stuff he said about guns is still relevant, so he's not going to win either. But people like pouring money into him, and he'll have money. He can spread it how he wants, and he's just a cash cow. A lot of these people are cash cows, and a lot of this money people are raising and throwing into campaigns they could use to help pay for kids' schooling, right? But elections, people can make money off elections. People love elections. It's because they can make money off of it. It's not about always democracy and the voters and all that stuff. A lot of people are in the game because they know how to get paid in the game. There's staffers who basically starve and are overworked and ready to die by the time that it's over, if you're like ground level. But there's consultants and all kinds of people who just basically throw money around, and some who will do nothing and just appear like they've done something and get a paycheck from some groups. So it can be a pretty nasty business, an insincere business. But here's a little bit from the Washington Post. Voters are heading into the midterm elections year in a sour mood, pessimistic about the economy, and short on confidence in the leadership of President Biden and his party on the issues that concern them most. The new Wall Street Journal poll finds. The survey reveals that a set of danger signs for Democrat Party as it prepares to defend narrow majorities in the House and Senate. Voters by large margins see economic and fiscal issues, including inflation. I know they want to just pretend like that's not happening, but obviously it's happening. We can see it happening. We can feel it as the top priorities for Washington, and they view the GOP as better able to handle them. So, economy being, people viewing that GOP is going to be better in the economy, that's a really bad sign, because there's other things that people care about that they think that in this polling, in this article, and that we know that they feel that Democrats are going to handle better, like climate change. But climate change, though they are alarmist and though it is very passionately important to some people, that is not a driving home factor that most people think about at the kitchen table when they're like, who are we going to vote for? The person who believes in climate change. Now, at the end of the day, most normal people, we talked a lot about, there are normal people out there who care about what happens at their kitchen table with their families and their communities and being able to provide for their kids. And they do not think about glaciers. Glaciers and AOC alarmism when they're ultimately just trying to figure out why milk is like $1 more than they remembered it being, and why gas is so astronomically high. So that is a really bad sign for the Democrats. They said a silver lining for Democrats is that the party's initiatives in Congress, the recently enacted bipartisan infrastructure bill, and a proposed set of climate and social spending programs, I laugh because those things are not important, have the potential to draw additional support from voters who are undecided on their 2022 choice. The poll found Democrats are also viewed as the best able to control the COVID-19 pandemic, but cut healthcare prices and improve education. Um, the education is going to be in for the Virginia race. The people who said that education, which that did poll high on why people like did go out to vote, but the people who said that education was the driving force for them overwhelmingly voted Republican. So if Republicans can utilize the outrage that was done in Virginia, now they had a lot of different things going on. There was the story about the girl who was raped in the bathroom, and then that kid who did it, who was trans. By the way, they seem like the administrators tried to underplay the person being gender fluid, but I don't have the picture prepared to go. But um, that person is trans. It's not just a boy who wears a skirt sometimes. I mean, he still likes ladies, I guess, but um, definitely in the community, if you know what I mean. So they had that going on. You had the letter from the attorney general and the memo from him and the school board association sending out the letter. So there was a firestorm that motivated people. But if Republicans can continue to motivate people and look into their own local races and seeing where critical race theory is breaking through and where there might be inappropriate content, which that's kind of stuff is going on. People are actively trying to make your kids live in a more racial world, so they can tear it down. And I've talked about this on Black Tea News and on this show. You guys can go check out different articles and stuff that I've written on these subjects. And to, uh, if you need some material, and then you can go on and pass it along and get people motivated. I think if education is a number one issue, there's going to be people motivated to vote GOP. Now, the COVID stuff, I think this polling, it says mentioned somewhere that this was before the big Omicron. And I'm hoping that people will wake up and see there is no end in sight to all of this. That they will keep pushing as far as we allow them to push us. That people have not even died from this variant, and people from South Africa, like, we don't understand why people's freaking out. So I think people ultimately, we also saw Virginia, people were upset about the mandates. People were upset that their kids weren't in school. And people are upset about the mental condition of their children too. There was a big report the other day, the Biden administration is saying that we have a big mental health crisis in kids. Now, of course, they have all these things that they're prepping for government solutions for, like, oh, they're upset about climate change and all these other stuff that are attached to some kind of policy. But the truth is that we kept a lot of people isolated. There's a lot of people feel overwhelmed because they're behind with their school and stuff now because we ruined education in the past year, and it's still not the best. So they made a lot of really bad problems. And I think pretty early on, we could see the risks that it was going to run with people's mental health, especially young people. And people still pushed forward with the lockdowns. So I mentioned earlier that my governor seems to have wised up as far as pushing against lockdowns and other things, even though Michigan has like the worst statistics right now for COVID, like as far as cases and stuff. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Last I looked, anyway. But they're not doing anything, and they all argue there's nothing that she can do because her powers were restricted. But she did not let that stop her. She really did not let that stop her. She was creative, but she realizes that there's election ahead of her. Now, she has a lot of money that she has raised through like loopholes. Basically, like, caps to give have been removed. Because there's a rule that was established some time ago by a Secretary of State that said if you're being recalled, there's not any like caps of how much people can give to you, because you may have to it's not fair to also have to run the recall, and like you would need the extra money, I guess. So she hasn't been officially recalled, There's people who've like gotten petitions and stuff. So she's still using that anyway to raise an astronomical amount of money for her campaign. So she's going to have a lot of money to blow for her reelection. Um, but even she, I'm sure, recognizes that you don't want to keep pushing it because people are really sick of this lockdown stuff. Now, there was an Axios poll that a lot of people on the left are, a lot of liberals are ready to wear the mask forever, which is weird. Which I don't believe that either. Like people may say that, but these people who institute the laws, these mandates, will go around not wearing masks. So there's people who are religiously scary about it. Like they'll see you, they'll get offended if you're not wearing the mask. But are they themselves also dedicated to that same task? There's some people who are devout, I guess, but there's some people who only use it as a club to hit you with. So I don't even really necessarily believe that. So at the end of the day, these things I believe are still going to sway Republican. But the economy is a driving issue and always will be a driving issue. And if people care about the economy and they think that the GOP are going to be more equipped to handle that, then it's going to be really big trouble for the Democrats in the midterms, which makes me astronomically happy. Really quickly, Chris Cuomo did get fired from CNN. And so rumors has it that he is lawyering up and he's going to sue them for like 18 million. That's the rumors. Because he had a contract that was supposed to be for 4 years and it was like 6 million a year. And so CNN said that they have a morality clause that he broke, which is funny because there's a lot of people that they could probably fire for morality stuff. So I think the Cuomo's aren't convenient to them anymore. And they decided to ditch him. They pay him a lot. His ratings aren't great. He's one of their stars, but is still not great, perhaps not worth the price either. There's a deal going on with like Discovery and Time Warner too, so maybe that's cut into like some thinking as well that he needed to be dropped. So they did fire him, they got rid of him, and so he's going to sue them. So I think it's delicious when they eat their own. I was a little surprised when he was dropped from CNN because after all, they do have Tubin who still there, and they suspended him for a little bit, but he was like diddling himself on a Zoom call and is still there giving legal opinions. So do they really care about their morality clause? I don't know, but it is convenient for them, and maybe Chris will make that point. But he's gonna want some of his money. I wonder if they'll probably just end up settling. I wonder if they'll end up settling. It depends how vindictive he is. Um, which his brother seemed pretty mean, and he at times could be pretty mean himself when he would lash out. Um, but it's interesting. It's very interesting. Last thing I want to mention today is that Black Lives Matter is supporting Jussie Smollett. Again, his trial is going on. It sounds hilarious, but it's not live streamed, so we are sadly being um, denied access to one of the greatest things probably happening right now. And I showed you guys this picture of Jussie. That does not look like Jussie Smollett. That does not look like Jussie Smollett in the least bit, in my opinion, at all. But yeah, we don't have like camera stuff. I don't know if I know the jury's seen the camera footage of him doing a dry run of the hoax. He's claiming that he had like a sexual relations with one of the brothers. I guess he's trying to do this lovers kind of quarrel thing. There was news that Don Lemon was like messaging him and trying to give him advice and other stuff like that. I'm not sure how deep that goes. I don't expect Don Lemon to get in trouble too or anything like that. I just thought it was interesting. But a Black Lives Matter group decided that they stand in solidarity with Jussie Smollett because we can never believe police. I don't understand that because it was definitely a hoax. It was definitely a hoax. It was definitely a hoax. And it's like, why can't you believe the police? Because the police in the situation were like the chief and stuff were black. And they were really mad at Jussie Smollett. They're really mad at Jussie Smollett. Like, we cannot believe that a black man would do something like this with this sort of imagery and would create a hoax like this. So I'm reading from Yahoo. Black Lives Matter leader said Tuesday that the movement will continue to support Jussie Smollett regardless of the outcome of his trial, which is just really bonkers. which she described as a white supremacist charade. Melina Abdullah, a former California State University professor, beware when you send your kids to school, and police abolitionist who co-founded BLM Los Angeles, said Smollett, who is accused of faking a hate crime, homophobic hate crime against himself, which that's absolutely what he did, has been courageously present, visible, and vocal in the struggle for Black freedom. Jussie Smollett, as abolitionists, we approach situations of injustice with love and align ourselves with our community because we got us. Because we got us. Abdullah said in a statement on website for BLM movement's national arm, the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. So let's be clear, we love everybody in our community. It's not about a trial or a verdict decided in a white supremacist charade. It's about how we treat our community when corrupt systems are working to devalue our lives, said Abdullah, who is currently the director of BLM Grassroots, a defund the police group. So why wouldn't it matter what actually happens? Why wouldn't it matter what the outcome was? Why wouldn't it matter that he did this really big hate crime hoax? It just makes people who have real grievances look bad. But stuff like that doesn't actually matter. Remember, BLM is a Marxist group. They were founded by trained Marxists. People are using race to try to destroy our world. I don't mean that jokingly. They do want to tear down the levers of power, the levers of government. I want to read this snippet of I I wrote an article on blacktnews.com about the Rittenhouse trial and what that has to do with critical race theory. And I do have a quote on there that's from a critical race theory book. Critical race theory is grounded in the particulars of a social reality that is defined by our experiences and the collective historical experience of our communities of origin. Critical race theorists embrace subjectivity of perspective and are avowedly political. Facts don't matter. What matters is the worldview they believe that they have experienced. And so in their worldview, cops lie. In their worldview, we live in a white supremacist system. In their worldview, there's injustice for Black people. So regardless of the fact that Jussie Smollett, whether he's found innocent or guilty, which he's totally guilty, he totally made this hate crime hoax. That is what he did. He wasted resources and manpower. He got everyone upset and emotional. It doesn't matter to them whether he's guilty or innocent. They're going to stand by him regardless. Even though he makes everyone else look like a fool. Even though he made everyone who supported him look like a fool. Even though he's making himself look like a fool. They still support him. They still support him because their ideology is political and the facts don't matter. They just want the outcome. They just want the outcome. I started off talking about the abortion industry and NARAL, how they would make up statistics totally, and they would lie because they felt what they wanted to accomplish was more important than reality. So there's some people who are more devoted to their narrative than actual reality and the facts. And BLM is one of those groups. Their whole entire premise is based off of a lie. The fact of cops in 2021, cops just hunting you down and killing you. There's no data to back that up. There's no data to back that up. In an abolitionist society, this trial would not be taking place. What? This trial shouldn't be taking place because no, he shouldn't have done it. He shouldn't have done it. I mean, it's offensive that he would do it anyway. It's also offensive how stupid it was and they expected to get away with it. It's offensive that they tried to frame an entire voting block of people. People were saying, oh, this is what happens in MAGA culture, MAGA country. It's offensive that this happened, but you're blaming society rather than the person who did it. They always want to blame systems and not look at people and the individual responsibility. Think about that. In an abolitionist society, this trial would not be taking place, and our communities will not have to fight and suffer to prove our worth. What, you must not have to fight that much if people have to create hate crime hoaxes. Instead, we find ourselves once again being forced to put our lives and our value in the hands of judges and juries operating in a system that is designed to oppress us while continuing to face a corrupt and violent police department who has proven time and time again to have no respect for our lives. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. While policing at large is an irredeemable institution, CPD is notorious for its long and deep history of corruption, racism, and brutality. Police lie, and Chicago police lie especially. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. That's what they think's going on in this trial. That Jussie Smollett is being, I don't know, side railed by police who are lying. It's why? Why would they do this? They know the whole story never made any sense, even before they did an investigation. And they did do an investigation. They investigated it. They have evidence that they had, they have text messages. The brothers admitted afterwards that they would, or Jesse testified that the brother said that they would admit there was no hoax if he just, I guess, make it seem like they just went ahead and attacked Jesse if he paid him like $1 million. So it's all messed up. It's all messed up. But they actually practiced like before they actually did it, and there's surveillance of that, and the jury saw it. We haven't seen it, but if you've seen it, please let me know. Please send it to me. But the jury has seen it. The jury has seen it. So this was undoubtedly a hate hoax, and the fact that people are still deciding to stand by him and say the police lie, perhaps they do, but they ain't lying about this. They are not lying about this. And there's no reason to make themselves look like fools other than they love. So it says, Eric says so much tea today. They love their narrative more than they love the truth. They love the narrative. There's a really good AOC quote that pretty much sums that up. They you don't have to depend on the facts if it feels true or something along those lines. I can't remember the exact quote. I'll have to look it up and like post it somewhere. But it really speaks to their mindset that they can still support this regardless of the facts of the case. And again, critical race theorists embrace subjectivity of perspective and are avowedly political. When people tell you that it's about, I'm not saying BLM is pushing critical race theory, but pretty much everyone, so many people push critical race theory, and when they deal, I'll go online and there'll be some racist Black person who doesn't think that they're racist because they don't have the institutional power to be racist. That's what they say. And I saw this one video, this guy debunking something. He's a white guy, and then this Black girl like hopped a video because she had like his clip, and so there's a little video of her, and she like paused his face and was like, "This is the face of a white man who doesn't know nothing," or "This is the face that they make," and how she said it. I just burst out laughing, and not because I thought it was a good diss from her part, but just because it was so ridiculous and it was so racist. And there's so many people who say that they care about racism who are actually racist themselves. But you can't call them racist because they've invented a way for them not to be racist. But the point of the matter, the fact of the matter is that you're still deciding to treat someone like garbage because they're of a different color. And she told them off a little bit. What she was arguing about, her points didn't really make any sense. And she had, I think, like 1 million followers on TikTok. It was a really big account. And this guy has like thousands, so he's probably getting bombarded by her fans. And she ended it with, "This is why we need critical race theory, so people won't say dumb stuff." Talking about the white guy, who, to my knowledge, just from their short interactions, didn't say anything wrong. She said a bunch of things that didn't make sense. He didn't say anything wrong, but they'll end stuff with, "This is why we need critical race theory." Why? they know that it's overtly political, and they think that if they push it, that white people will learn their place. They'll learn to go along with the narrative. And as long as you decide to stay quiet and not push back against this stuff, they will push this narrative until it is history. It's Orwellian. What the things that they're trying to do. I do appreciate someone left a comment and said that by me speaking out, they are more encouraged to go ahead and speak out on these issues. And I do appreciate that, and that makes me extraordinarily happy and feel like what I am doing has value. I would do it regardless, because I like to commentate on these things. But that is one of the reasons that why I do what I do, because I do want to empower other people to have conversations with other people and make them think critically about their issues and where they stand. Do they even have a real foundation, a basis on why they believe what they believe? Because a lot of people do not. And even Republicans need to be challenged about where they actually stand on the issue sometimes. But the left, there's a lot of wackadoodles. There's a lot of and especially young people, and they are the future, unfortunately. And a lot of them are very confused. A lot of them are very confused, and if you do not have conversations with them and just make them think a little bit. I remember during the 2016 election, there was the video that came out, recording that came out of Hillary Clinton. She had defended a man who had raped a little girl back, obviously, when she was a lawyer. And she was talking about how he passed a polygraph test. And she kind of laughed and she said, it forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs. And so people were saying she laughed. And the media's was debunking it. And Snopes was saying they debunked it because they're like, she didn't laugh at the fact that the girl was raped. I'm like, that's not what I said. That's not what people were saying. People were saying that she laughed. You can hear her laugh on the audio. And when I would mention to people, post a Snopes article, nope. I'm like, listen to it yourself. There's evidence. There is evidence that she laughed and that she knew this person was guilty. Now, he has a right to representation. She didn't necessarily have to be that person. She wasn't the public defender. She didn't need to take that case, but she did. And they do have a right to representation. But they wanted a woman to do it because they thought that would be the easiest way to bash a little girl who was so brutally raped that she could not have kids later. And the only justice she got was watching Hillary Clinton lose on election night. That was the only justice she got. As a matter of fact, I don't have her tweet pulled up, but she tweeted that on election night. That was pretty much the only justice that she got. But so I remember mentioning that, and I was going back and forth with this girl who didn't believe it was true. I'm like, sweetheart, just go look at it. And then we started talking about different other subjects, about the party switch myth. And then she was like, but my professor said. I'm like, okay, but here's some facts. I know what people have told you, but just look at the facts. And there's a lot of people just don't know how to think critically on these things, and we have to continue to push them. So I wanted to mention the BLM thing because it's funny. I find the Jussie Smollett case fascinating, hilarious. I think it was such a big deal 3 years ago when it came out that I wish it was a bigger deal in the eyes of the media so these people can be embarrassed and be forced to talk about it. I wish we were watching it on TV and streaming it and stuff. But we just have to live off of the little snippets of news that are coming out. But it's quite fascinating, quite fascinating. Well, that is all that I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the tea. I was told that it was really good today. So thank you guys for watching. Please make sure that you visit blacktnews.com. Like I said, I do have an article that I dropped that I'm quite proud of that I think you guys will like. And there's good information in it on the moral harm to abortion. So please make sure that you share that around. Share other articles that I've written. Please make sure that you're following me on social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. All my handles there are at Black Tea News. The only one is different is Twitter, and that one is at True Black Tea. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. And also check out different merchandise that I have, different shirts that I have, mugs that I have. And it's Christmas time. I do also write books as well. Some of you have already mentioned that you picked up Super Kid for your kids and that they like them. I appreciate that so much. So go ahead and get the sequel. No, just a little rundown quickly. It's a book about a boy with an overactive imagination. He thinks he has superpowers. He does not really have superpowers. He teams up with Kiara, who goes along with it because she has a huge crush on him. She's way smarter than him, and she becomes Princess Lady Diva because she had to be all three. They help another kid in their community named Lee, and he becomes Stick Man. And so they go around the community just trying to do good. And so it's got some wholesome conservative values for your kids. It is a chapter book. So if you know your cousins or you got kids or grandkids, whoever, pick up Super Kid for them. My books are available at ninjadustpublishing.com. But if you go on blackteennews.com and hit the merchandise button, there is a link there to that website. So you can find everything on blackteennews.com. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I do want to thank Brighter Michigan Pack again for allowing me to be in the studio. And if you didn't like what I said today, no one cares. Thank you for listening all this time, being part of the conversation. I will see you guys tomorrow. God bless.